What's up, y'all? I am shirtless for Touch Up Thursday. Show you a little bit of the goods. Um, so Thursday is what I'm going to be doing is taking a video that maybe didn't do so well, or you guys didn't see or whatever, highlighting it and recreating it, adding something to it so there's a little more value to it. So that's what Touched Up Thursdays are. What I did is go back to last week's Tips and Tricks Tuesday that only a few of y'all watched. I had originally 3 tips for those who had no credit to build up their credit. I had added a 4th tip. So that's what you guys are going to see right here is 4 tips and tricks for somebody with no credit. So keep watching. Looking to start your credit journey? Well, here are 3 tips that you should understand before you go and start building credit to make sure that you get the highest limits possible. Hi, my name is Matt Coach. This YouTube channel is made for me to share my tips, tricks, and mistakes on my way to building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. And today I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of advice on some things that maybe you don't know about that could help you guys boost up your scores and make sure that you get accepted for some better credit cards with higher limits and get your credit score on the up and up as soon as possible. Make sure you guys are doing that strategically as possible. So I'm going to drop you all 3 different tips today, making sure you guys get some knowledge so you're building your credit score in the right way to do it as fast as possible. Let's get it on. With no credit scores, maybe lower credit scores, so stuff that's under 700, and how you can get up into the mid to high 700 ranges pretty quickly. Some of these are pretty revolutionary. They'll definitely change your guys' scores, and then a lot of them are the reasons you guys might have scores getting brought down. So very first one we got is authorized users. So an authorized user is basically when somebody adds you to their credit card so that their credit card is reporting to your personal credit report. So what that helps is your debt owed and your length of credit. So because you now have a credit card that has a higher credit limit, inside of it, it's going to help your debt owed. So if you have one credit card that has $1,000 on it and you owe $500, but you add somebody's credit card who has a $20,000 credit limit, then you owe $500 at $21,000 instead of $500 out of $1,000. So that helps your debt owed and can add to your length of credit. Not every single credit card reports their full length of credit, but the majority of them do. So what that does is essentially, if you have like your grandma has had a credit card for the last 30 years and it has a $25,000 limit on it, what you can do is you can add that to your report, and then it starts reporting to your credit profile as a trade line. So it'll be like you have that 30 years of credit history on a credit card with a $25,000 limit. So if you're brand new to credit, you don't have any length of credit on your history or very limited amounts. So this will help that average length of credit out a lot. There's really no other way to do this except for just waiting and just building it on your own. So this is a very important tip for a lot of people to make sure that length of credit, that 15% of your score, is as high as possible. Now, if you're asking, why would somebody let me have access to their credit card? This seems like this might hurt that person. What actually happens is this credit card gets sent to their address, so they just never give it to you. That's the way that this works. You never touch that credit card. It's only there to be on your credit report. And as long as they pay it on time, it adds to your payment history as if you paid that credit card on time. And as long as they keep, the utilization low, so there's somebody who doesn't use their credit card a whole lot and report, really high balance, you won't have an issue with your debt owed. So, if you guys have parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, who are in this spot where they've established credit for the last 20, 30 years, this can be very beneficial for your credit reports so that you get that linked credit up. If you don't have anyone in your life like that, you can buy an authorized user trade line. That's what it's called. You can go through. There are some websites. There's are ways to do that. It also would be reasonable to, straight up offer that to somebody that you find, just a friend or a coworker or anything like that who has really good credit. Offer them a couple $100. They never see the credit card, and it gets reported to your credit line, and you jump up in your score. So all of these things, this is probably the biggest hack in credit right here. This can jump you up 30 to 50 points right here, just having a good authorized users on your report. And you want to have 2 of them if you're not somebody who has that 20, 30 years of credit history already. The next one is secured loans. So secured loan is a loan or credit card that's backed by some sort of collateral. So, if you are just starting, it can be very hard based solely off your credit to get a credit card. So what a lot of the times you do is you get a secured credit card. Discover has a great one, gives you cash back. So you can go to Discover, you can give them at least $200, a minimum of $200. But you put $200 in, and you now have a credit card with a $200 line on it. And you can use that credit card. It's going to start reporting to your credit profile and building that credit history. So this is very important to start your credit history so you can start having payment history. But what most people do not know is that you can also do secured loans against like a savings account. It's called a pledge loan. I know Navy Federal does this. And what essentially you do is you start up a savings account. Say you have $10,000 in savings. Say you have that's kind of your little nest egg that you have that you're using in case, kind of a rainy day, maybe get laid off from your job or something like that. And you keep it inside of a savings account. Say you want to make a smaller purchase, right? Maybe for something like a PlayStation 5 or something, for instance. It's going to cost you $500, something along those lines. What you actually do is you go and you can take a $10,000 pledge loan. Right, so you pledge up this $10,000, right? They give you usually a loan equal to that amount, but maybe lesser than, depending on your profile and what it looks like. And essentially what you do is you go and buy that PlayStation 5, right? So you use that $500, and then you use the other $9,500 or so that you have in there, and you pay off that portion of the loan. So it's kind of a roundabout way of financing something like a PlayStation 5, but what you now have on your report is a 90 to 95% paid off loan that you have, and then you continue to make payments on that loan. So you keep it, and it's adding to your payment history. You want to make those payments for the life of the loan, so whether it's a 3-year loan or a 5-year loan or whatever it is, you want to make sure that you keep that loan on your profile so it's adding to your payment history. And if you're somebody who doesn't have any kind of loans already on your account, it's also going to boost up your credit mix to make sure you have different loans that you're taking out. Now, if you are somebody who maybe has like a lot of student loans, if that was your situation, this probably isn't as pertinent of a credit building technique. But if you're somebody who has like absolutely no loan profile, you're brand new to starting, utilizing these secured loans are probably the way you're going to start building that credit profile. And if you're somebody who's asking, like, it seems weird if you already have $10,000, why don't I just use that $500 out of there to go buy my PS5 if I want to? Keep in mind that this is a credit building video. The techniques are how to build credit. If you never take out money, you can't build your credit. So this isn't necessarily financial advice. It's not necessarily a good idea to take out loans for things you can already afford. But for instance, if you were out in a spot where you start utilizing the savings account and depleting it, you can have an issue with your personal finances if you are laid off from work or something along those lines, that you don't actually have any savings available, or if you have some kind of medical emergency or something like that, those lines, that there is no savings available in this spot. And that can really hurt you if you don't have credit, because then you can't take out a loan to go and pay those kind of things off, and then you're stuck in kind of financial misery. So it can be a good idea to make sure that you build your whole credit profile and put some really small loans on that aren't going to kill your wallet on your report, so that you are on you have that credit history. So if you ever are in a spot where you need to take out a loan, that you have your credit profile absolutely maximized to the spot. So you got to think of this as more of a long-term understanding, that having this credit, building it up, maybe it doesn't make so much sense in an isolated, like a vacuum incident, but having this reporting to your profile is something that boosts your whole credit score. And then keeping your savings account actually can mitigate some risk if you were to, for instance, have some kind of big medical emergency or something that you depleted the savings account with. If you used all of it to go and buy things and didn't have it anymore, once you don't have the cash, and if you don't have credit, you can't get loans and you can't use collateral. So that is the reason you might do something along these lines. The third tip right here is bureau pulls. So you should understand that each lender pulls different credit bureaus to decide what to lend to you. So the three major credit bureaus are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So if you have an understanding of what bureau they're going to pull, you can strategically add loans and credit cards that are pulling each different bureau. And the reason you want to do this is that if you, for instance, were to get 3 new credit cards, right? And you got all 3 credit cards from TransUnion, for instance, what you're going to find is that you're going to get lesser and lesser limits as you pull from this one bureau, because you have a lot of recent inquiries on that bureau. Whereas, for instance, if you got 3 new credit cards and you got one from Equifax, one from TransUnion, one from Experian, each one is pulling essentially individually, right? So you could get, like 5,000 here, 5,000 here, 5,000 here, where if you were to go, all 3 on TransUnion, it'd probably look something like 5,000, 3,000, 1,000, something along those lines. So in order to get the highest credit limits, you want to make sure you understand what bureau is going to get pulled when you go through a credit card. And also, if you have 3 or more recent inquiries, right? So when you get pulled, when I say getting pulled, that's getting a hard inquiry on your account, which hurts your new credit. If you guys remember that video, brings down your credit score. What you're going to see is that you'll get rejected, usually after this 3 mark within the last 6 months. So if you're getting your 3rd credit card or 4th credit card from one bureau, it's very likely you can get auto rejected just simply because you have too many of these hard pulls on that bureau within the last 6 months. So 3 is the limit typically within the last 3 months, or last 6 months, sorry. And then 5 is the limit within a year. Hard inquiries do not affect lending after a year. They do remain on your report for 2 years, but they're no longer a huge factor in determining what your credit limits are going to be. So the idea behind this is that as you go to grow your credit profile, you want to ask and be aware of what bureau they're going to pull. It's also very possible that you could have Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian be higher than the other ones. So one of these 3 bureaus could be higher than the other ones and might be a bureau that you'd prefer to get pulled than one of these other 3. So understanding which bureau is going to get pulled can help you to get the highest credit or highest loan possible. So if you're going to ask me, you're like, hey, that's cool. Maybe you can ask your bank representative, but a lot of the times they don't know what's kind of the general idea or general game plan of how I could go about getting, 3 new credit cards if I wanted one from each. And here's a little list I have of the common bank pulls, right? So US Bank is going to typically pull from TransUnion. Then Elon Financial, which actually is a subsidiary of US Bank. So that's like Umpqua Bank, Mechanical Bank. A lot of banks go through Elon Financial for their credit card needs. Barclays, these 3 are going to go through TransUnion. Chase, Discover, and American Express are typically Experian. And Equifax is Citi. You can go to Goldman Sachs and get that Apple card. Key Bank is a bank that goes through most of the Midwest. A lot of them, I think, a lot of them do lend to some areas. I know probably the majority of you are in California. KeyBank also pulls from Equifax. So you can get, if you wanted to get to that point where you have, 5 or 6 credit cards poured into your account, so you can get up into that 800 mark credit score, you could get 1 or 2 from US Bank, 1 or 2 from Chase, 1 or 2 from Citi, and kind of stack them all up so that you have each one of these where you're not pulling too many from any of these individual bureaus. So I want to disclose that this can't change. Banks aren't 100% going to pull the same 3 bureaus. Like Capital One pulls all 3 bureaus. Sometimes Discover might pull 2 bureaus. Chase sometimes pulls 2 bureaus. So after you go for a loan, it's very important that you go up here to your Credit Karma, right, and you check your TransUnion report. Right here you see hard inquiries. You can go and click on that. Let's make me log back in. I'll go ahead back in, but you will see that it will tell you your hard inquiries, who pulled them. Occasionally you can get soft pulled and still be accepted, but you'll see right here, like TransUnion, I have Capital One pulled me November 24th of 2022. Like I said, they stay on for 2 years, but they no longer affect your report after a year. And then I have JPMCB, that's actually Chase. That stands for the JP Morgan Chase Bank Credit Card Services. But you see both of those right there. So you'll be able to see your inquiries right here with your Credit Karma that I have 2. You can do the same thing with Experian. I have to sign in again and check the report. But you guys can see right here that this is kind of a general game plan that you guys can utilize to make sure you get relationships with some of these banks. It's very important. American Express is probably the best one if you're somebody who makes a good amount of money, because they have things called charge cards there that scale up as you spend, and they give back a lot of cash back. They give 4% with that little gold card, plus it's cool looking. So American Express and Chase are probably the 2 ones that you would want the best relationship with overall. Those who just happen to get the best rewards, the highest credit limits for individuals through, and both of them happen to pull Experian, which isn't ideal. But you can check through here with my Experian account. I'll show you guys the same thing that you could see from Credit Karma. And these guys just got to make sure that you have less than 3 within the last 6 months to be accepted for these new credit cards. Let it load on up. All right. So all these tips and tricks are the kinds of things that can help you boost that score from essentially 0 up into that 700-ish mark, where you can start building your own credit profile. A lot of these just are not well known, so it's good for you guys to know these. And if you're somebody who maybe has a 680 credit score or something along those lines, and you just don't know why, some of these can be the reason. You just don't have the credit mix or length of history that's getting you up into that 700 plus mark. And these are the kind of things that you should understand to make sure that you do get there. You'll see right here on my report, right, if you go all the way down, you will see right here 6 inquiries, right? So it's going to go through and name each inquiry the same thing that you had right here. where you see them right here, what bank pulled them. And each one will be named right here. Alrighty, everybody. So those are my 3 tips that I have. Hey all, this is in addition to my 3 tips for those with no credit. It is now 4 tips for those with no credit. And I'm going to add credit limit increases as a tip to those trying to raise their credit score. What that is when you increase the credit limit on a credit card. So what this helps is your ratio of debt owed. So if you go from a $1,000 credit card to a $2,000 credit card and you had $200 on that credit card, you went from owing 20% of your limit on that credit card to owing 10% of your limit, and that's going to help you increase your score. So about every 6 months for most cards, you can ask for a credit limit increase. So if you have a $1,000 limit, you use that card. 6 months after you got that card, after using it, you ask them to increase the limit. It's pretty regular to at least double your limit every 6 months until you get to about that $10,000 range. Then usually they limit you a little bit. Especially if you get things like raises in your job, you definitely should go and request a credit card limit. But yeah, all you have to do is call the credit card, the bank that issued the credit card, and ask them to increase your limit. A lot of these credit cards will have the ability to request a credit limit increase on the app. So you can go through that, but make sure every 6 months you are trying to increase that credit limit. The higher this credit limit is, the lower this debt owed portion is, the higher your credit score will be if you ever have to hold debt. So this is very important. All right. And thanks y'all for watching.